Former Kethlarian Fleet Commander Zulvan dragged his heavy body through the reinforced doorway, his forearms shaking like leaves in a storm. The metal chamber felt cold and unwelcoming, just like the war that had ended 3 years ago. His purple-scaled skin had lost its shine. Deep scars ran across his face from battles. He wished he could forget. The interrogation chair groaned under his weight as he settled down. Across the table sat Lieutenant Hyan Wu of Terran Intelligence, a young human with sharp eyes that seemed to see right through him. The human wore a simple gray uniform, but Zuvan knew better than to underestimate any of these creatures now. "Commander, we need your account of the Terran Wars," Hyan Wu said, his fingers dancing across a holographic recording device. The blue light cast strange shadows on the walls. "Your perspective could help prevent future conflicts between our peoples." Zulvan's throat sacs puffed up like balloons, a nervous habit he had developed during the war. His yellow eyes darted around the room, taking in the security cameras and the 2 guards standing by the door. Even in this peaceful setting, he felt like prey. "You humans," he began, his voice crackling like old paper. "You don't understand what you truly are. When the Galactic Dominion first detected your small blue planet spinning around that average star, our science teams were excited. Finally, a new species to study and catalog." The alien commander's mandibles clicked together nervously, making a sound like breaking twigs. "We classified you as Class 7 primitives, just another group of bipedal mammals with basic combustion technology. Your rockets barely reached your own moon. Your weapons were simple metal projectiles. We had energy shields that could stop asteroids." Hyan Wu leaned back in his chair, his expression neutral, but his eyes alert. He had heard whispers about the war, but never from someone who had actually fought against humanity. "What did the Dominion Council decide?" "It gave us a timeline," Zulvan continued, his voice growing quieter. 3 solar cycles to complete the conquest. Standard procedure for primitive worlds. We expected your surrender within days, maybe weeks if you were particularly stubborn." The alien's forearms moved restlessly, to drumming on the table while the others fidgeted with his torn uniform. "We had done this so many times before. 47 species had fallen to the Dominion's might. The crystalline builders of Vega Prime lasted 2 rotations. The hive mind of Epsilon Eridani surrendered after we destroyed their queen ship. Even the warrior clans of Proxima Centauri gave up after we demonstrated our plasma cannons." "But humans were different?" Hyan Wu asked, though he already knew the answer. "We thought we were studying a documentary species," Zulvan whispered, his voice filled with something that sounded like awe mixed with terror. "Peaceful farmers and builders. Your cities had no military fortifications. Your space stations were designed for research, not war. We saw families playing in parks, children learning in schools, artists creating beautiful things." The alien commander's eyes grew distant, as if seeing those first surveillance reports again. "Our xenobiologists were fascinated," they said. "Humans showed remarkable creativity and problem-solving abilities. They noted your pack-bonding instincts and your ability to work together despite differences. They called you charmingly primitive in their reports." The Dominion High Command barely paid attention to the briefings. Another routine conquest. They were already planning which of your resources to harvest first. Your oceans held minerals we needed. Your forests could be converted to industrial complexes. Your population could be relocated to work colonies. Hyan Wu's jaw tightened slightly, but he remained silent. "I remember the first transmission we sent to your government," Zulvan continued. "Standard Dominion protocol. Surrender immediately and accept integration into our empire. Your people would be relocated to suitable worlds. Your leaders would be given administrative positions under Dominion oversight." It was generous, really. Most species don't get such offers. The alien's throat sacs deflated as he spoke. We waited. For the expected response, fear, negotiation, maybe some token resistance before inevitable surrender. Instead, we received a message from your United Earth Defense Council. Just for words that none of us understood at the time. "What did they say?" Hyan Wu asked quietly. "Come and take it," Zulvan replied, his mandibles clicking rapidly. Our translation computers couldn't find any cultural context for the phrase. It seemed like a simple challenge, but our psychological profiles suggested humans were naturally peaceful. We thought it was bravado, empty words from a species that had never faced real war. The alien commander shuddered, his scaled skin rippling. We should have paid more attention to your history. We should have studied your wars, your literature, your songs about heroes and sacrifice. But we were arrogant. We saw only what we wanted to see. Tell me about first contact. Hyan Wu pressed gently, his voice carrying the weight of his own people's memories. It was supposed to be routine, Zulvan whispered, his forearms now perfectly still. Just another day of conquest in the endless expansion of the Dominion. We had conquered 47 species before yours. None had lasted more than 3 planetary rotations. Some surrendered immediately, others fought briefly before accepting the inevitable. The aliens' eyes met the humans across the table. But you weren't like the others. You learned that the hard way. The first engagement was at your Sol Station orbital platform, and I still wake up screaming from the memories. Zulvan's voice grew hollow as he stared at his 4 hands, remembering how they had shaken that day. Admiral Kixther commanded our assault fleet, the pride of the Dominion Navy. 200 vessels of pure destruction against your pathetic 12 patrol ships orbiting that metal station. Our ships stretched across space like a dark cloud. Massive dreadnoughts with plasma cannons that could melt asteroids. Fast attack cruisers armed with quantum torpedoes. Support vessels carrying enough firepower to glass a planet. The flagship alone was 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons. That had never failed us before. Your Sol Station looked like a toy in comparison. Spinning wheel of metal and glass, clearly designed for peaceful purposes. Docking bays for cargo ships, communication arrays, research laboratories with large windows where we could see people working inside. It should have been target practice. Hyan Wu leaned forward, his dark eyes reflecting the dim light. What happened when you made contact? Admiral Kixther opened communications first. Zulvan continued, his throat sacs fluttering nervously. Standard Dominion protocol. He appeared on every screen in your station, his ceremonial armor gleaming, his voice carrying the authority of 1,000 conquered worlds. Humans of Sol Station, you are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender immediately, and you will be treated according to Dominion law. The alien commander's mandibles clicked as he remembered. We expected immediate compliance. Fear, panic, maybe some desperate negotiations. Instead, your commander Jamin appeared on our screens. A middle-aged human in a simple blue uniform, standing calmly on his bridge while alarms blared around him. Jamin looked directly at Admiral Kixther and smiled. Actually smiled. Then he said something that made our entire command crew freeze. In terror, today is a good day to die. The translation computers couldn't explain why those words felt like ice in our veins. Zulvan's claws scraped against the metal table, leaving small grooves. Then your commander did something that defied every rule of space combat we knew. Instead of trying to run or hide behind the station's shields, your 12 ships formed up and charged directly into our formation. 12 tiny vessels against 200 warships, flying straight at us like they were already dead. Our tactical computers couldn't process it. No species had ever done anything so reckless. Our gunners hesitated because it seemed like suicide. Why waste ammunition on ships that were clearly malfunctioning? The alien's voice cracked as he continued. Commander Minho's destroyer led the charge. It was barely 100 meters long, armed with primitive nuclear missiles and kinetic railguns. Our flagship could have swallowed it whole. Minho aimed, his ship like a spear straight at Admiral Kixther's command bridge. Our shields activated automatically, energy barriers that could stop meteor strikes. But your commander had done something brilliant and terrifying. He had overloaded his ship's reactor, turning his entire vessel into a nuclear bomb. The explosion punched through our shields like they were made of paper. Zulvan shuddered, his 4 arms wrapping around himself. Minho's ship rammed into our flagship. We heard him singing over the communication channels, not screaming in fear or crying for help, singing some kind of human war song in a language our computers couldn't translate. His voice was calm and strong, even as his ship exploded around him. The impact sent shockwaves through our entire fleet. Smaller vessels were thrown off course. Our formations scattered like startled fish.
Oh.
That was just the beginning of the nightmare. Hyenwu remained silent, letting the alien continue his painful testimony. In the chaos, we detected an escape pod ejecting from one of your damaged ships. Standard procedure demanded we capture survivors for interrogation. The pod contained pilot Sojin, a young human female who appeared to be barely old enough for military service. She seemed injured and helpless. Our recovery team brought her aboard the command ship. She was unconscious, bleeding from head wounds, clutching some kind of personal photograph. Admiral Kixter ordered her taken to the medical bay for treatment and questioning. Zulvan's throat sacs inflated and deflated rapidly, but Sojin wasn't unconscious. She was waiting. As soon as our medical team began treating her wounds, she activated a hidden device built into her flight suit. Not a weapon we could detect, something far worse. Used herself as bait, the alien whispered. Her escape pod and her body were rigged with antimatter charges. Enough explosive power to crack a moon? She had ejected from her ship, knowing she would die. Knowing we would capture her, knowing we would bring her aboard our most important vessel. The explosion tore through 17 decks of our flagship. Admiral Kixter was vaporized instantly, along with 3,000 crew members. Our command structure collapsed in seconds. Ships scattered in all directions without orders, bumping into each other, firing at shadows. That's when your reinforcements arrived. Earth's defense ships dropping out of hyperspace like vengeful ghosts. They didn't try to capture our vessels or negotiate surrender. They simply attacked with a coordination and fury that defied belief. We had superior numbers, better weapons, stronger shields. But you fought like the station itself was your home, like every person aboard was your family. Our surviving ships retreated in complete disorder, abandoning equipment and wounded crew members. Hyenwu noted quietly, "Standard military protocol would be to send a distress signal." "No," Zulvan hissed, his eyes blazing with remembered terror. "This wasn't standard anything. Sojin didn't just sacrifice herself to damage our ship. Had calculated exactly how much damage was needed to cripple our command structure without destroying our communication arrays. She wanted us to broadcast our defeat to the entire Dominion fleet. We learned something that day that would haunt us throughout the entire war. Humans don't fight to win battles or capture territory. You'll fight to ensure your enemy loses everything, even if it costs you everything as well. You'll turn your own deaths into weapons." The alien commander's voice dropped to barely a whisper. After Sol Station, the Dominion High Command finally understood what we were truly facing. Not another primitive species to be conquered, but something far more dangerous. We were fighting a species that had turned survival itself into an art of war. 3 cycles later, the Dominion High Command decided to end this human problem once and for all. Zulvan's voice cracked like breaking glass as he remembered that terrible day. After the disaster at Sol Station, our leaders were furious and embarrassed. How could 12 primitive ships destroy our finest admiral and scatter our fleet? It had to be luck, they said. A fluke that would never happen again. So they assembled the largest attack force in Dominion history. 8,000 ships from across the galaxy, pulled from a dozen different star systems. Massive battleships the size of small cities, each one carrying enough firepower to reduce a planet to dust. Fast interceptors that could dance between asteroids while firing plasma bolts. Carrier vessels loaded with robotic fighters that swarmed. Like angry insects, the target was your Bizon orbital manufacturing complex. A massive structure that built everything from cargo ships to mining equipment. Intelligence reports showed it was lightly defended, just a handful of defense platforms and a small garrison. Perfect for demonstrating Dominion power after the Sol Station embarrassment. Our fleet commander, Admiral Zirthok, was a veteran. Of 30 conquests, he had personally overseen the destruction of the crystal cities of Altair and the submission of the hive worlds near Vega. This grizzled warrior with cybernetic implants, replacing half his face, had never lost a battle. 8,000 ships against 300 Marines, Zulvan whispered, his forearms trembling. Commander Jin-Ho held that station with odds that would make even our battle computers laugh. By every rule of warfare we knew, he should have surrendered the moment our fleet appeared on his sensors. The manufacturing complex was a beautiful sight before the battle. Spinning rings of metal and crystal, connected by transport tubes that carried materials between different sections. Massive fabrication bays where ships were built from raw materials. Living quarters for thousands of workers who had been evacuated. When the Dominion fleet approached, Admiral Zirthak opened communications first, expecting immediate surrender. The station appeared defenseless. No energy shields, no heavy weapons, just a few old defense platforms that looked like they were built for asteroid mining rather than war. Haiyan Wu remained silent, but his hands clenched slightly on the table. Commander Jin Ho appeared on our screens, and I'll never forget his face. He was younger than I expected, with calm eyes that showed no fear despite being surrounded by the largest fleet in galactic history. Behind him, we could see his command center, a simple room with basic equipment and a handful of staff officers. Admiral Zirthak delivered the standard ultimatum. Surrender immediately, or face complete destruction. Your commander, Jin Ho, listened politely, then did something that still gives me nightmares. He smiled and said, "We'll see about that, Zulvan S." Breathing became heavy as the memories flooded back. Then the impossible began. Instead of trying to defend the station, Jin Ho started destroying it himself. His Marines, led by Sergeant Tae Yang and Corporal Vagin, began systematically blowing up sections of their own complex. Our tactical computers couldn't understand what was happening. Why would they destroy their own facility? And the first wave of debris hit our forward ships. Chunks of metal and machinery moving at incredible speeds, guided by the station's rotation. What had been a peaceful manufacturing complex became a deadly cloud of projectiles. The alien commander's claws scraped against the table as he spoke. But that was just the beginning. Jinho's people used the manufacturing equipment to build weapons we had never seen before. They turned metal-forming machines into giant railguns. They converted chemical processing plants into explosive factories. They even used the station's gravity generators to create artificial black holes that pulled our smaller ships off course. Sergeant Taeyang led teams that moved through the station's maintenance tunnels, appearing suddenly to sabotage our boarding parties. They knew every pipe, every conduit, every hiding place. When we sent robotic troops to secure key areas, Corporal the Jin squad had already rigged them with explosives. The debris field grew larger every hour. Pieces of the station, fragments of our own ships, everything spinning and colliding in a chaotic dance of destruction. Our larger vessels couldn't get close enough to use their main weapons without risking collision. Zulvan's voice dropped to a whisper. After 6 days of fighting, Admiral Zirthak finally ordered a full assault on the station's command center. We lost hundreds of ships pushing through the debris field, but we breached the main hub. Victory was finally within reach. Our assault troops stormed the command center, expecting to find Jin Ho cowering in defeat. Instead, we found him standing calmly at his control station, covered in blood from wounds that should have killed him hours ago. He was holding a simple device in his hands, a manual detonation trigger connected to the station's power core. Aliens' throat sacs, inflated with terror at the memory. Ginho looked at our soldiers, at the weapons pointed at him, at the inevitable end of his hopeless defense. Then he activated the communication array one final time and spoke to our entire fleet. His voice was weak but clear, carrying across 8,000 ships filled with millions of Dominion soldiers. His final words were transmitted to every screen. Every speaker, every communication device in our armada, this is for Earth. Then he pressed the trigger. The explosion was beyond anything we had prepared for. Jinho had turned the entire station into a massive bomb, using the manufacturing equipment to create a chain reaction that tore through space itself. The blast consumed 47 of our capital ships, instantly vaporizing them along with their crews. The debris field that followed was like a meteor storm that lasted for months. Chunks of metal and crystals scattered across the star system, creating a barrier that prevented our advance toward Earth. Our supply lines were cut, our morale was shattered, and our supposedly invincible fleet was trapped in a graveyard of their own making. Zulvan's forearms wrapped around himself as he shuddered. 300 humans had stopped an armada of 8,000 ships, not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through sheer determination to make us pay for every meter of space we tried to claim. After Busan, the Dominion finally understood what we were truly fighting. These weren't just soldiers defending territory, they were protectors, willing to sacrifice everything to ensure their people's survival. And that made them the most dangerous enemy the galaxy had ever seen. But the orbital battles weren't what broke us, Zulvan whispered, his alien features twisting with remembered terror. His forearms shook as he gripped the edge of the table, yellow eyes darting around the room like he expected shadows to come alive. It was what happened when your special forces went hunting that truly shattered the Dominion's will to fight. After our disasters at Seoul Station and Busan, the High Command thought they understood human tactics. Direct confrontation, suicidal charges, turning defensive positions into massive bombs. We prepared countermeasures for all of these strategies. What we didn't prepare for was the nightmare that began 3 months later. Captain Dongmin led a unit they called the Ghost Squad, just 12 humans who somehow terrorized our entire supply network across 4 star systems.
I'll stay for an entire stellar
cycle. They turned our rear areas into hunting grounds where no Dominion soldier felt safe. They would appear from absolutely nowhere, strike our convoys with surgical precision, and vanish like shadows before reinforcements could arrive. Our intelligence officers went mad trying to track them. We deployed sensor networks that could detect a fly landing on an asteroid. We stationed patrol fleets at every major shipping route. We even hired the best mercenary hunters in the galaxy, creatures that could track prey across dimensions. Nothing worked. Hanwoo's expression remained carefully neutral, but Zulvan could see the pride flickering in his dark eyes. Guerrilla warfare is nothing new, Commander. Many species have used hit-and-run tactics. This wasn't guerrilla warfare, Zulvan snapped, his throat sacs inflating with agitation. This was something far more terrifying. Guerrilla fighters hide in familiar territory, use local knowledge, strike and retreat to safe bases. Your Ghost Squad had none of these advantages. They operated in deep space, in star systems they had never seen before, against enemies who outnumbered them millions to one. The alien commander's voice became strained as he continued. Sergeant Yunji was like a living ghost. She could move through our most advanced sensor grids completely undetected for weeks at a time. Our security systems were designed to catch invisible ships, cloaked assassins, even creatures that existed partially in other dimensions. But somehow, she slipped past everything.
Ow.
We found her footprints in the dust of cargo holds, food missing from supply ships, equipment that had been subtly sabotaged days earlier. She would study our patrol routes, memorize our shift changes, learn the personal habits of individual crew members. When she finally struck, it was always at the exact moment when our defenses were weakest. Zulvan's claws left deep scratches. In the metal table, as his agitation grew, Corporal Young-Soo was even worse. He once infiltrated a Dominion battlecruiser, the Void Crusher, and lived among the crew for 6 days before making his move. 6 days, on a ship with 5,000 personnel, sleeping in their quarters, eating in their mess halls, walking their corridors. How was that possible? Hyenwoo asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. He studied us, the alien whispered. Not just our technology or our tactics, but our psychology, our culture, our deepest fears and desires. Young-Soo somehow obtained a Dominion uniform and created false identification records. But more than that, he learned to think like us, move like us, even smell like us. When he finally revealed himself, it was during a critical supply transfer. In the Rigel system, the Void Crusher was receiving ammunition for the siege of Mars. Young-Soo had spent days learning the ship's layout, identifying key personnel, understanding their procedures. In 15 minutes, he destroyed the main weapon storage, sabotaged the life support systems, and transmitted our battle plans to Earth Defense Command. The ship's captain, a veteran warrior named Crystal, later said the most terrifying thing wasn't the damage Young-Soo caused. It was the realization that any crew member could be a human in disguise. Trust broke down completely. Soldiers started viewing their own comrades with suspicion. Zulvan's breathing became labored as he recalled the worst memories. But neither Yoonji nor Youngsu was the most dangerous member of the Ghost Squad. That distinction belonged to Specialist Haewon, a young human female who looked harmless enough to be mistaken for a civilian. What made her so dangerous? Hyan-woo asked quietly. She would capture our soldiers and reprogram them, not with technology, not with torture or brainwashing devices, but with something far more terrifying than any weapon we knew. She used hope. Alien's 4 arms wrapped around himself protectively. Haewon would take prisoners during raids, usually junior officers or specialized technicians. Instead of killing them or sending them to prisoner camps, she would talk to them. Would just talk. She would show them images of Earth, videos of human families, recordings of children playing in parks. At first, our captured soldiers would resist. They had been trained to hate humans, to see you as primitive animals that needed to be conquered for the good of the galaxy. But Haewon was patient. She would ask them about their own families, their homeworlds, their dreams for the future. Slowly, she would help them understand what the Dominion was really doing. Not bringing civilization to primitive worlds, but destroying entire cultures for resources and territory. She showed them evidence of Dominion war crimes, recordings of planets that had been strip-mined to death, species that had been driven to extinction. Zulvan's voice cracked with emotion. Within weeks, hardened Dominion soldiers would begin questioning their orders. They would start asking why they were fighting, what they were really accomplishing. Some would refuse to return to their units. Others would go back and spread doubt among their comrades. The worst part was that Haewon never forced anyone to change sides. She simply showed them the truth and let them choose for themselves. A truth so powerful that it turned our own weapons against us. How many defected? Hyan-woo asked. Captain Dongman's squad never numbered more than 12 humans. But they were responsible for the surrender of over 3,000 Dominion personnel. Entire ships would arrive at human stations flying surrender flags.
Out the elite.
Assault units would lay down their weapons and request asylum. We lost more soldiers to defection than to combat casualties. They turned our own forces against us through nothing but their conviction and determination. No torture, no mind control, no advanced technology. Just 12 humans who believed so strongly in their cause that they convinced thousands of enemy soldiers to join them. The alien commander slumped in his chair, exhausted by the memories. After 6 months of Ghost Squad operations, Dominion morale collapsed completely. Supply convoys required massive escort fleets. Ships' crews lived in constant fear of infiltration. Our own soldiers couldn't trust each other. That's when the High Command finally understood the true horror of what we were fighting. Humans didn't just defend their territory with weapons and tactics. You defended your beliefs, your values, your very way of life with such passion that it infected everyone around you, even your enemies. The Ghost Squad proved that 12 determined humans could do more damage than entire fleets of warships. They didn't just fight a war, they fought for the soul of the galaxy itself. The war ended not with a great battle or massive explosions, but with a simple realization that shattered everything the Dominion thought they knew about warfare. Zulvan's voice became barely a whisper as he reached the final chapter of his nightmare. His forearms hung limp at his sides, exhausted by the weight of memories that had haunted him for 3 years. During the final engagement at the Titan shipyards near Saturn, our forces managed to capture a human medical officer named Dr. Myung. She was treating wounded civilians in an evacuation shelter when our assault troops broke through the outer defenses. Unlike the soldiers who fought to the death, she surrendered peacefully to protect the injured people under her care. The Titan shipyards were humanity's last major industrial complex, a massive structure that could build entire fleets of warships. Our intelligence suggested that capturing it would finally break human resistance. Admiral Velkrath commanded the assault, determined to end this costly war with one decisive victory. Dr. Myung was brought to our command ship for interrogation. Zulvan continued, his throat sacs fluttering nervously. She was a small woman, maybe 40 years old, with gentle hands that showed she had dedicated her life to healing rather than fighting. Our interrogation specialists expected her to break quickly and reveal human military secrets. Instead, she did something that changed the course of the entire war. Under questioning, she told us something that made our blood freeze in our veins. Hyenwu leaned forward slightly, sensing the importance of this moment. She looked directly at Admiral Velcroth, this tiny human facing a warrior who had conquered star systems, and said words that still echo in my dreams. "You think you're fighting soldiers? But you're fighting parents protecting their children, siblings defending their families, lovers safeguarding their futures. Every human you kill makes the rest. Fight harder." The alien commander's mandibles clicked rapidly as he remembered. At first, we dismissed her words as propaganda, but Dr. Myung wasn't finished. She began showing us personal photographs from her medical bag. Pictures of the people she had treated. A young father who had lost his arm defending a school. A grandmother who had volunteered for suicide missions to protect her grandchildren. Teenagers who had given up their lives to buy evacuation time for strangers' families. She explained that humans didn't fight because of orders from governments or loyalty to abstract concepts. You fought because every single person was connected to others through bonds of love and responsibility that we couldn't understand. Each death didn't weaken your resistance. It strengthened it by creating more people with personal reasons to fight. Zulvan's breathing became labored as the terrible realization washed over him again. That's when we finally understood the true horror of what we had stumbled into. We weren't fighting an army or even a species. We were fighting a family. Every human who died had parents who would avenge them, children who would grow up hating us, friends who would dedicate their lives to our destruction. The Dominion had conquered 47 species before humanity, but we had never faced anything like this. Other races fought for territory, resources, political control. When their governments surrendered, their people accepted defeat. But humans weren't fighting for governments or resources. You were defending your very existence as a species. Hyenwu waited patiently as the alien commander gathered himself for the final revelation. Dr. Myung's words reached Admiral Velcroth. At exactly the moment when we received a transmission from Earth, your Admiral Sunho had captured our main bioweapon research facility in the Proxima system. These were weapons designed to target specific DNA sequences, capable of wiping out entire species while leaving their worlds intact for colonization. The alien's 4 eyes closed as he remembered that terrifying moment. Admiral Sunho's message was broadcast to every Dominion ship, every command center, every homeworld across our empire. He appeared on our screens, standing in the captured facility, surrounded by containers of weapons that could kill billions. His voice was calm and steady as he delivered an ultimatum that changed galactic history. "What did he say?" Hyenwu asked quietly. "He offered us a choice that no Dominion leader had ever faced before: coexistence or extinction. Not just for humans, but for the Dominion itself." Sunho had turned our own planet-killing weapons against us and was prepared to use them if we didn't agree to immediate peace negotiations. Zulvan's compound eyes fixed on the human intelligence officer with a mixture of fear and respect. But the most terrifying part wasn't the threat itself. It was the absolute certainty in Sunho's voice that he would follow through. He wasn't bluffing or trying to negotiate better terms. He was simply informing us of reality. Sunho explained that humanity had studied our bioweapons and improved upon them. He had targeted viruses that would affect every major Dominion species simultaneously. Our military leaders, our civilian populations, our entire civilization could be wiped out within weeks if we chose to continue the war. The message concluded with words that still make me shiver. "We didn't start this war, but we will finish it. Choose wisely." The alien commander's voice cracked with emotion. Within hours, the Dominion High Council convened an emergency session. For the first time in our empire's history, they voted unanimously for immediate armistice. Not because we were losing militarily, but because we finally understood what we were really fighting. We had entered this conflict expecting to conquer another primitive species. Instead, we discovered a force of nature that treated survival as a sacred duty. Humans don't just fight wars for victory or territory. You fight for the right to exist, to protect everything and everyone you love. Hai and Wu switched off the recording device, the blue holographic display fading to darkness. Thank you, Commander. Your testimony will help ensure lasting peace between our species. As the guards prepared to escort Zulvan back to his quarters, the alien turned back one final time. His yellow eyes met the human's dark ones across the sterile metal table. Lieutenant Huyanwu, there's something else your people need to understand. The Dominion withdrew, not because we were defeated, but because we were terrified. Your species survived this war because you understood something. We never did. Sometimes the only way to preserve peace is to be willing to fight for it with everything you have. That willingness, that absolute dedication to protecting what matters most, is what makes humans the most dangerous species in the galaxy. But it's also what makes you the most worthy of respect. The metal doors closed behind the alien commander, leaving Huyanwu alone with the recorded testimony that would reshape diplomatic relations across the galaxy. The war was over, but the legend of human determination would echo through the stars for generations to come. In the silence of the debriefing room, the human intelligence officer reflected on the terrible cost of survival and the price of peace. 3 years after the armistice, both species were still learning to coexist. But they had learned the most important lesson of all. Some things are worth fighting for. Some fights are too dangerous to start. The galaxy would remember that human war is not as a tale of conquest or defeat, but as a reminder that the strongest force in the universe isn't advanced technology or overwhelming numbers. It's the determination of ordinary people protecting the ones they love. The Eon Dare Retriclod can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.